Alright, there we go. That will work much better. Wrong link. Alright, send that out on Twitter. Alright, everybody. Hello, I'm back. A little bit of technical difficulties here. So Dave finally gave me access to the questions that you all had asked in the questions and answer portion of the Darcrus Slack. So kind of did a dry run earlier, a little bit off, but we'll get it started. You can tell that my kids like to put stuff on the wall and play Minecraft. So without further ado, we'll get at the questions and answers. If you have any other questions that come across while I'm reading these off and kind of answering and explaining a little further, pop them in the Slack, pop them in the chat. Give me some feedback if you can hear me. Video's okay. If I'm talking too fast, tell me to slow down, because sometimes I get a little excited, start talking really fast. You'll have to excuse my coffee drinking. I'll take lots of coffee drinks. So go ahead and start. So first question was, what is the difference between a local NXT wallet or a remote node wallet, such as the nxt.sigwo.com? The only difference between the nxt.sigwo.com and a local wallet is that the one that is located under sigwo.com is a web server that is open to the public to use. Basically, it's kind of like a light wallet. You use your passphrase to log in. You use your account to log in. There is no special account that's created for you. It's strictly a local wallet that I have hosted on a website for a node to people to use without downloading the entire blockchain. None of your information is stored on the server. It is all locally stored. Uh-oh. Well, go ahead and get them, babe. That's the littlest one. So yeah, none of your stuff's stored on the server. None of your passwords are stored or anything like that. It's all locally stored in your browser. If you clear your cache in your browser, you'll see that your account will quote-unquote disappear from the remembered accounts. So yeah, nothing stored there. Next question is, I assume I need to have some NXT in my NXT wallet in order to withdraw Darcrus to Bittrex. Yes, that is correct. You'll need at least one NXT to send from your wallet back to Bittrex, or from to create a trade on the asset exchange in NXT. It is a decentralized asset exchange built into the wallet and into their blockchain. To place an order, to cancel an order, it takes one NXT, and they did that to stop or to limit spam transactions on their blockchain, so it didn't get filled up and the blocks filled up like you see in Bitcoin. For whatever reasons, they go back and forth on what kind of Bitcoin they want to have. And so the next question is, how much does it cost to withdraw from NXT wallet? It costs one NXT. The next question is, how many Mercury tokens will there be, and is there a fixed amount, or will it be reissuable? There are 100 million Mercury tokens. It is a fixed amount. One of the explorers they have for waves will show that it has 50 million tokens and that it is reissuable. And that is because the first time I built Mercury, I did that. I wanted to test to make sure that you could do a token and make it reissuable, and then the next time you issue a token, you can take that reissuable away. And that's what I did. So the second time I issued the second 50 million, I took the reissuable off. If you look at wavesgo.com, which is the official Waves Explorer, you'll see that there's 100 million tokens and they're non-reissuable. The next question is when I open my wallet in nxt.sigwo.com or my own new wallet, the dot not forging is read with message, my account has no public key. In my wallet there are of course 0 coins. So the forging dot only turns green when you're forging NXT. So, and to forge NXT is basically staking a POS coin. You have to have 1,000 NXT, and they have to be in your wallet, not moved for 1,440 blocks, or about 1 day. And then you can start forging. Forging is very difficult on NXT unless you have several 100,000 NXT. So if you have, 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000, it's really not worth it to start trying to forge, because you might get a block every 3 months or so. So that's why you see the red dot when you log in. You'll only see a green dot if you log in and your account is forging. The public key was a safety feature that the NXT core devs put in, basically to broadcast that an account was being used. They're getting rid of it. They've realized that it's very confusing to people that are coming into the NXT ecosystem and the Ardor ecosystem. So they're getting rid of the public key announcement and all of those things. It'll be automatic when you create the account. Let's see. So the next question is, how many Mercury tokens were distributed to Waves accounts in the first round, and over how many accounts were these spread? There were 55,662,500 Mercury tokens distributed to 4,453 Wave accounts. So that's pretty good distribution. Each account got 12,500 Mercury tokens, and that was just a number I had kind of just picked. There was nothing special about it, but I did it to any Waves account that had at least one wave in it when I took the snapshot of their blockchain, and it was just purely to distribute the token around to make it an easier way to get the token out there, to get it in everybody's hands. And since it's on Waves, having it in Waves people's hands made sense. So the next, that's how many are spread and how many are sent out. So the next question is, what's the difference in NXT wallet between the number in dashboard, so the asset value in NXT, and he said that it differs 20% for him from the NXT dashboard to what it is in Darcrus to BTC. And that is basically because in the NXT wallet, they're showing you the value, basically NXT to Darcrus. So on their asset exchange, if it's Darcrus, 1 Darcrus to 7 NXT, that BTC ratio may be different than what it actually is on Bittrex. So right now NXT is, I think, 1,200 Satoshis. So if it's 7 NXT to 1 Darcrus, that's going to be, what, 8,400 Satoshis? Or 8,200. So, and it may only be 6,000 Satoshis on Bittrex. So that's where you're going to have a little bit of a difference. So, watch both of those markets and, keep them both trading so we don't fall off the volume requirements and things of that nature. So that's why you see the difference between both of those assets, or those exchanges. So the next question is, I'm using the Sigwo hosted wallet, and it appears to have nice functionality for my iPhone, but all I have is iOS devices, and I can't install a Waves wallet. Will this be a deal breaker for me as far as receiving Mercury tokens? Can you suggest a plan B for me? This person can get to their NXT account and their wallet to send the message, but he's worried that they won't have a Waves wallet. So there is a Waves online wallet that is not a Chrome plugin, and I'm copying and pasting this right now into the chat in case anybody needs it. Um, so that's where you go to be basically like how I have nxt.siglo.com. This is essentially the same thing for Waves, but you'll have to back up the seed, because if you don't have the seed, you won't be able to recreate that wallet and that information when you do get to a regular computer, or want to if you for some reason wipe the cache of your iOS device or upgrade or something, and that may disappear. You'll need to have that seed. So as I put in the Slack channel, for the love of Jupiter, don't lose your tokens. If there's any problems, if you have questions, I've always tried to help. There's plenty of people in the Slack channel that will be more than happy to help. The guys and gals in Waves Slack have been very nice to help some of the Darcrus newcomers that are going from our Slack to their Slack to find more about Waves, how to use it, more information about some of the other tokens. They've been very, very, very friendly. So that's what you can do if you don't have a regular computer and you only have an iOS device. The next question is, why not put Mercury on Bittrex as well? Surely they would accept it next to DAR. I would think Bittrex would produce way better volume and give better balance between NDAR and WDAR. So NDAR is NXT DAR and WDAR is Waves DAR. So back when I first started this endeavor, I was going to put Darcrus on Waves. I went against doing that because at the time exchanges didn't have Waves tokens compatibility or support, and Waves doesn't have all of the features I need or that I want to be able to talk and keep track of Darcrus owners. So I went with NXT. Plus, I'm very familiar with NXT and the way it works, so I knew I could help anybody that had problems or questions when it came to the wallet or how it works or anything like that. But pertaining to this question, Bittrex has launched Waves support for tokens. They've launched Tokes, which is another Waves token. I have not reached out to Bill or Richie or any of them to add Mercury right now. I think it's doing pretty good on Cryptopia. They have a good market. They have quick response to any questions I had before I listed it. After I did the listing fee, it was on and ready to trade within 24 hours. I will eventually, get to Bittrex and go, hey, we want to add this. But right now, it's not a super high priority on my list. But that doesn't mean that they don't listen to the community when they go and say, hey, we've got this thing. This is what it does. And Bill and Richie know me well enough. They can reach out, or Julian with the week can call up, can reach out and say, hey, give me some more information about this. Shouldn't be a big deal. Next question is, any chance this project will move to Ethereum, or will it be cross-platform? So I guess it's a two-pronged question. First answer, no, it's not going to move to Ethereum. Ethereum doesn't have the platform to do what I need it to do. It does a lot of cool things, but it doesn't do what I need it to do. And then, will it be cross-platform? Yes. Darcrus is just the token representing the software that I build. Jupiter is the software that I build with modules that are plug into the software or strictly use the API system that's built into Jupiter to do certain things. And it's all based on NXT technology. And in my opinion, NXT is by far the most superior platform that's in crypto right now. So that's why I picked NXT to build Jupiter from. It has literally everything you can do with anything else. It's got its own asset exchange. It's got its own messaging system. It's got encryption built in. You can store data in it. You can store files in it. It's got everything. So cross-platform, uh, Mercury is the cross-platform token. That will allow Jupyter nodes and Jupyter software to talk to the Waves blockchain. Um, and there's a little bit more about that a little later on in the Q&A. But Mercury is the token that will be used to talk to Waves. There could eventually be a token that talks to Ethereum, or that allows Ethereum to talk to us through the Waves blockchain. But Darcrus is going to stay on NXT for the foreseeable future. So the next question is, can I set up two-factor authentication on the NXT wallet? No, they don't have two-factor authentication built into it, but you can do a multi-signature transaction for some protection. So there are ways that you can do, basically they call it phasing. You do a phase transaction where you have to have two or more accounts approve another transaction. So it will allow multiple stop gaps before somebody can actually take any of your money out of NXT. I have never used it, so I am kind of new on how to do it. But I do know it's possible. A lot of people do it. A lot of people lock up, large amounts of NXT doing it that way. So sounds good, But I do want to build in a sort of two-factor authentication into Jupyter for businesses. It'll be using U2F, so it'll be like Trezor or a YubiKey hardware token when you log in. So like when I log in to certain accounts, I plug this in instead of using a two-factor authentication mechanism. So I have to have this access, the password, all those other things. So U2F is the future. I think two-factor authentication is going to eventually go by the wayside, because eventually you'll be able to do passwordless accounting with hardware tokens, and you won't have to remember all your passwords. So yeah, that'll be eventually. So let's see, this is kind of long, so bear with me. The asker says, you mentioned Jupyter will stamp on the Waves blockchain every 10 Waves blocks, but with a block interval of 1 per minute, this means only 150 Mercury are needed per day. Seems a bit odd with a supply of 100 million, or do we have to see it like you have the Jupyter main chain, and for every company it has its own environment within it, kind of like a side chain? For comparison, if you look at the NXT platform, and a block are transfers, messages from all the people that use NXT. But for Jupyter, that is every company that has its own ledger, so blocks only containing messages of that specific company, which means 150 Mercury company per day are needed. So each Jupyter block is going to publish to the Waves block. I had started off to where I only wanted to do one stamp per wave, or per 10 blocks. Then I got to thinking, well, I don't need one system doing all of the timestamping, and then if I don't need one system to do all the timestamping, I can do a timestamp per block. So it's not really based on the Waves blocks, it's based on Jupyter blocks. So every Jupyter block, we will send that block hash to the Waves blockchain. So there may be blocks on Waves that get 2 Jupyter block hashes, because our chain may move faster for that 2 block period or that 3 block period. So each node has the ability to be the person or the node that sends that block hash to Waves. Like right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 Jupyter nodes that are running right now. Of those 13, 6 of them are publishing their syslogs through Titan to the Jupyter platform. I'm bringing the other ones online, and when I get the other ones online, Sigwo technologies will be fully integrated into the Jupyter platform, pushing my logs for all of my servers, either be the web server, the development server, my personal servers, the other Sigwo node or Jupyter nodes for Sigwo technologies, and the nodes for Intrant security that I'm doing for them, and then any other companies that want an exterior node will get the Jupyter software, and it will get the instance of the Mercury software, so that every block it will publish the block hash to the Waves chain. There'll be some communication in the Jupyter chain that tells which one of the Jupyter nodes will be sending that Waves block. So we'll be sending the Waves transaction in Mercury. I haven't started sending the Mercury messages yet because I want to make sure that there's enough nodes that are accepting the Mercury token for fees before I start pushing those out. Because if I start pushing them out, I'm just gonna the transactions will expire and they won't get mined into the Waves. So then it's kind of a wasted effort. So I don't want to do that quite yet. So that's why I gave them all away, because Sigwo Technologies needs to buy these, and that's kind of a way to create value for that public publishing of the Jupyter block hashes. So there's a public way to verify the private permission chain, and I'll explain that in just a moment. So I gave them all away. I can't predict how many Mercury will be needed because I don't know how large of an ecosystem we'll get, and one company may have 100 Jupyter nodes, and I can split how many we can go, or double it up from one company to the outside the company. So then you have, hey, Jupyter matches, and then both of these block hashes match on the Waves chain from two separate nodes from two separate companies. So there's no collusion, there's no blockchain rewinding, there's none of that thing, because everything's published to a public blockchain that is owned by nobody. So let's see. The next statement was, that means that there's enough Mercury for over 1,800 years. No. Because on top of this, Mercury will be, like I stated before, a cross-chain communications mechanism to where you can talk back and forth using Mercury from Jupyter into Mercury. Eventually you'll be able to use other blockchains to talk in using Mercury, because there are gateways that you can build. And the acceptance of Mercury in the nodes for my reasons will lead to other people being able to use Mercury for their reasons, because it's already widely accepted. It has value already. So having 100 million of them, there's plenty of those tokens to be used for what they need to be used for. Let's see, the next part is, he says, I know it is a private chain, but it is just one huge ledger, just like the NXT platform, or separate ledgers for every company, just trying to get the bigger picture of everything. So Jupyter, as it stands today, is one ledger. All of the nodes that are publishing to Jupyter are publishing to one blockchain. Some companies are going to want their own Jupyter nodes that only talk to themselves. That is where it gets really important for Mercury to publish from inside their company to a Waves blockchain, because then they, even more than me, own the blockchain. So if blockchain technology and the blockchain experts and blockchain engineers are going to become more ready plentiful. They're going to start having these, just like security engineering and network engineering and software engineering, and all of those other things, they're going to start having blockchain engineers at these companies, and they're going to get smart, and they're going to be able to find out, hey, you know what? Um, since we own all of the nodes, we can do X, Y, and Z. Well, they could own all of their nodes, but they don't own the publishing of the block hashes that are in their nodes to the Waves blockchain. So that public Waves blockchain will always be basically it'll always be the checkpoint for where Jupiter is, even against Jupiter itself. So it's a very good utensil. It's a very good tool, in my opinion, to prove that cross-chain communication of this nature is very important, and B, showing the effectiveness of a private permissioned ledger can be just as effective as a public ledger without the overhead cost of the tokens to power that blockchain. So because the Jupiter tokens, you only get those if you're a subscriber of the software that I build, that Sigwo Technologies distributes. So nobody, unless they buy some of the software and get a subscription, will have Jupiter tokens. So they won't be on an exchange anywhere, which is my intended. That I intended to do that because I did some math on NXT trying to build a requirement, or to meet a requirement for a company that wants this software, and they had 29 million transactions per day. So I did the math, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was something like $300,000 a day to make 29 million messages go across NXT. So that's when I really knew that I couldn't use NXT natively. I had to have Jupiter. So Jupiter was born. So back to the question. I go off on a little bit of to the left field, but it depends on what the company wants. If they want their own private permission blockchain, that is their prerogative. We will go in and we'll do the consultation. We'll do the engineering for it. We'll do the software installations and the training of the users. But I will always press them to continually only use that one Jupiter blockchain so we can have everybody on one, because that reinforces the strength of it as well. And some businesses are going to have multiple technologies of Sigwo Technologies. They're going to have a DAP sheet doing this and a private Titan instance doing this, and they're not going to want any of their syslogs or their Titan instance. That's going to be all separate and private. But their DAP sheet, they want it public, so they want to put it on the Jupiter blockchain so everybody can see it. And those are the types of things that'll get worked out during the consultation period and during those initial meetings on how we're going to set their company up for success. No matter what happens, Sigwo Technologies will always run the archive nodes or additional archive nodes to ensure that there are multiple instances of the entire blockchain in different data centers from different providers, and each private instance for a company, I will also be running one archive node for them that's outside of their business purview. So basically, one of my nodes will talk to their private instance, and it's strictly for if their entire data center crashes or their whatever happens, their disaster happens, I will have a copy of all of their data to be able to give that back to them. So the next question is Mercury supposed to show up in the Waves wallet on the main screen once it comes to the wallet? No, it doesn't get one of the little panels on the Waves wallet. It only gets you'll be able to see it in the transactions below, and if you click on the little briefcase up top, you'll see it. That's the assets. You'll see your assets listed there, and to send those around, you use the transfer button. That's to the right of your assets. So you'll see that. and you'll be able to send those along. The next one is what's the issue? Oh, what's the difference between reissuable and non-reissuable MER tokens? Is that like you can't send them to someone else, or they can't be sent to some wallets? No, that just means they can't be created anymore. Like I kind of explained earlier, reissuable, non-reissuable Mercury tokens, there can be no more built or no more created, but they can be sent wherever you want to send them in the Waves ecosystem, which hopefully they get their DEX built here pretty quick, and then you'll be able to have another decentralized exchange that's attached to the Darcrus project on a different blockchain. Okay. So we kind of went through the blocks on how we get blockchain or block stamps from Jupiter into Waves. So just to kind of straighten it out, I think we've got this in the Q&A channel. Basically, the block hashes that come from Jupiter are not a compilation of previous block hashes. It's a, hey, we just found a block, send this block hash to Waves. Hey, we found another block, your turn, send this to Waves. Hey, I found another block, hey, both of you send it to Waves. So it's it will be real-time stamping of Jupiter block hashes to the Waves blockchain, because, like I said, I want that dual chain provenance that shows that nothing happened on the Jupiter blockchain to change the block structure, change the block hashes, change transactions or messages. They are cryptographically verifiable on the blockchain, and then it's cryptographically verifiable on the Waves blockchain as well, that the transaction that's in that block hash on Jupiter is not changed because the same block hash is in Waves. Because if the block structure changes, the block hash will change, and it won't match what's in Waves. And I can't change Waves because I don't have 100 million Waves tokens. So it's pretty safe to say that's going to be safe. Never Godson Manza. Sometime, actually, I will. He says, when are you going to buy my bags? I will eventually buy all the Darkers, so don't you worry. I'll buy them, and I'll burn them, because that's the way this works. So let's see. Oh, that's the end of this. Dave, I thought this was longer. Did I skip a page? No. So let me make sure. I know. I'm the guy that kind of goes everywhere. Edge master. So I felt like I'm missing something. I forgot something. You guys are out there. I got 6 whole people watching me. Slack URL. Here it is. There you go. That's how you get into the Slack. So that's kind of the question and answer. So I do have, all the time in the world. So I want to kind of, sort of, give you a rundown of what's kind of going on in my brain. I wrote this down somewhere. I got to find it. Hang on. So basically, we have a good community member helping me do graphics, because I can't do graphics worth of crap. So I take my Surface and I sketch what I want to see, and then I send that to him, and he makes it nice and understandable. So we're kind of going back and forth right now on how things work between Mercury, Waves, the Jupiter platform, and why it's important for businesses to have this dual provenance structure. So we're working on that right now. We actually have 3 different sketches that I've sent, and he's putting these together, and we're going to standardize our icons for Jupiter, for Sigma Technologies. So when we're doing this, it's going to be like, anybody that's out there that does IT stuff. Cisco has, standardized icons for, firewalls, routers, switches, layer 3 switches, a NAT traversal, reverse web proxies. All of those things have standardized icons. So when you look at it, you're like, hey, I know what that is. So us in crypto, we've all kind of like, hey, my stuff's special, and I don't want anybody else's stuff looking like mine. So I'm going to try to standardize what these things do, and make some sort of a standardization, at least in my my company in Sigma Technologies, and hopefully people will start adopting those types of icons, or at least standardizing across their explanations. So when we show it to people, they'll be like, hey, I've seen this before. I kind of know what you're talking about. So it's not reinventing the wheel every time you talk to somebody. So that's the sketches. So those are going to be put together in a type of marketing slick that I can have with me, and then hand to people, and then give them a visual of what I'm explaining, because I've explained this to multiple people, and I get my surface out and I start drawing, and these are not crypto people, and they don't understand, they don't know blockchain, and I draw the entire thing without saying blockchain or crypto, and then they're like, okay, well now I get it, my stuff's everywhere. How does it actually work? Because these are IT guys, or people that were IT backgrounds now own their own company, so then they want to know how it works. So then I get into the blockchain discussion and how it is distributing all of this information to all of these nodes, and any one node has all the information at any one time. So that is really fascinating, especially to people that used to use databases, and they'd set up these databases, and then you had to set up another database, and then you had to set up scheduling to do the streaming, or do the replication between back and forth, and then so that this, you don't have to do that anymore. So once they realize that those types of activities can be skipped and be used in other places, you start reclaiming some of your resources inside your business, and you can reuse those resources doing other things to make your business more profitable. So that's kind of where we go in and show them how to do things better or different, and then, hey, while this is happening, now you have you can do X, Y, and Z. So that's part of the consulting part. So that's kind of the marketing, the graphics. So those will go up on the new website. So my website, so like I said, I'm not a graphics guy. So Sigma Technologies is getting a new site. It's about 60% done. I have the wording that I want to use. I'm going to start putting the wording into the site, so it's got like place markers and everything. So I'll start putting that in. We're going to have some graphics from what our community members helping me with. So we'll put those on the website. It'll have a place to get some feedback from you guys. It'll have a contact us. It'll be a little bit more of a professional website. So when I give my website to other businesses, they'll be able to contact me, look at pricing for the software, and then get with the software offerings in a more straightforward fashion. So then the other thing is, so we've got our first customer, and back to C3 Technologies for the proof of concept. Stan's finally back in town. I sent him what I have built. He's all over it. He loves it. And then he sent me, what's today? Saturday. He sent me Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. He sent me over the beginnings of our non-disclosure agreement to allow C3 Technologies to be a reseller of Jupiter software. So his C3 Technologies, they are a contracting firm that has some contracts within the DoD, and they want to be able to resell our software and pitch it to people inside the DoD and into their contact stream. So that's really good news, because if I can get a reseller, and I know Intrant Security, which is ECCS. So ECCS and Intrant Security are the same company. They were going through some renaming functions when I signed them up, but they are Intrant Security. But they also want to be a reseller, but it was kind of in passing. It hasn't had an NDA sent to me yet, so nothing there yet. But the exciting thing is, the C3 technologies and getting an NDA. I have to get it reviewed to make sure everything's in line, and it does what I want it to do. And then we'll get that signed, and then we'll start. That's why I started getting these marketing slicks put together, so we can start giving those to C3. So when they go see their customers, they can start handing these out. Bring me in to explain what it does and how it benefits their company. So that's kind of on the end of it, what we're doing. So let me click over here. I saw somebody pop up. So I have a question. It says, are you a programmer? Did you work on NXT Waves, JL7 projects? I'd say I'm a programmer. I've built the Titan software that runs off the Jupyter platform. The DAP sheet is going to be the template DAP sheet will be something that I built from a template, just because I don't do graphics, but I'll build the back end to it. So when you put in names and stuff in those boxes, yeah, I didn't put the boxes there, but I don't really care, because the boxes won't be there when somebody says, hey, I want your DAP sheet to be built just like my stuff. So that box is going to be somewhere else. So where the box is placed is kind of irrelevant to me. It's the back end on how you get the information from the front end to the actual blockchain. I did not work on any of their projects per se. I did build I called it, what did we call it? What did we call it? The auto swap? I think it was called auto swap. Because back when I worked with a guy on Influx. A guy had created Influx. I was running Sig Farm, and we kind of hooked up and said, hey, I'll help you do stuff for your coin. So I went ahead, and that was when I was still kind of but I was into NXT, and I really like the SuperNet Lite wallet, which they have it's called the multi-gateway system. So you can send like Bitcoin into the SuperNet network, have it display kind of like Waves, have it display as Super BTC, and it's an NXT token. So what I did is I talked to the SuperNet guys and the guys that own the multi-gateways, and I donated a multi-gateway server for them to be able to stand up an Influx instance, so we could have Influx in SuperNet. So if you go to SuperNet's Lite wallet, you'll see an Influx panel to where you can send Influx in and out. So that was kind of negotiated, but then what I did is I built a platform for people to go send Influx and get out Bitcoin, or send Bitcoin in and get Influx out, and I used the multi-gateway system to do that. And the way it happened is you would send Influx in. I would grab the current price, tell you how many Bitcoin to send to get that many. Send Influx in. I would give you the price for how many Influx to send, how much Bitcoin out. Like, hey, I need to send a half a Bitcoin to this guy. Hey, you know what? You need to send me 50,000 Influx. You'd send 50,000 Influx. It would say, hey, you sent them. It's not a duplicate transaction. Go ahead and send this other address 0.5 Bitcoin, or vice versa. So I guess those kind of projects, that I had built on NXT's platform, but I don't work for any of those actual people. Let's see. So can I ask, would you rather kiss my ass or lick my foot? Shut up, asshole. No one is looking at you. It takes so long to play one thing. Shut up. Answer something else. Hmm. Sorry about that. Just to deal with it. So, let's see. Dave showed up. Let's see what Dave's got to say. Yes, Dave. I got the list. So I guess Diego, do you have a question since you want me to answer something else, or you good to go? All right. I think I've talked long enough. I don't have any more questions in the Slack. We went over what has been asked in the Slack channel. Kind of gave you some news of what's going to happen here, in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully the new site's done in a few days. Hopefully some of those graphics we can start pushing out in 4 or 5 days, and hopefully we have another signed contract for a reseller here in a couple weeks. Other than that, I appreciate the support. Thanks for coming to hang out in the Darcrus Slack. Thanks for coming over, Diego. I definitely appreciate it. It's fantastic you showed up, because it's people like you that probably have one NXT and 100 accounts that I'm waiting until the 30th of April to send you Mercury. So, all right. Thank you very much. I'll be in the Slack, and I think this automatically posts in like 2 seconds to the YouTube channel that I have. So, appreciate it. Thank you very much.